great. I've actually had no sleep, but I'm fine. And I was looking forward to this session and this day, and it's finally here. And so I just hope you're excited as I am too. And I hope that you learn a lot of things and get to connect with a whole lot of people. And I hope that after the ECB summit, you will not leave here the same person, but you leave here motivated and charged enough to dispense your duties as ECB chairs or ECB team members and MCRs as well in your various entities. So without further ado, I'll just share my screen and then we'll go into the session for today.
Yay!
Okay, I hope you all can see my screen.
We can see our screen.
You can?
Yeah, we can. So all good.
Okay. Great. Today is day one, as we all know, and we are starting the summit off with a very interesting topic, and that's the education cycle. And who better to talk about this than Richard, who apparently is the ICOM manager and education responsible for ICB. And so I'm very honored to be here to speak to you about the education cycle. In compiling or in creating this particular session, a lot of things came to mind, trying to decipher whether it was appropriate to earn or not appropriate to earn, things that would benefit you and things that I thought were actually crazy. But we were able to find a common ground, and I hope that you enjoy the session and write all your questions down. If you have any questions after the session, you have the opportunity to ask whatever you so desire. Okay, so greetings from my country. I am Ghanaian, born and raised, and I speak Asante Tree. So over here, good afternoon, you say Maha or Mawaha, basically. So Maha means good afternoon. My name is Richard, and like I said, I'm ICB for Development, ICOM, and Education Manager. And yeah, with the fun facts, I decided not to put anything there because I wanted to surprise you. And that's because the fun fact is actually kind of weird. Of course, a World War II, probably if I say it. I'm going to say it anyways. And that is, I basically feel like papaya is the worst fruit in the world. I just don't know why. It's just, I do not like it. And it's something that I'm not going to eat, even if I'm put to the death, basically. Yeah. So that's the fun fact that I have to share. And before we go into the session, the few alignments like Suhail already said, you need to make sure that your name is aligned, the name, your entity. You can also add your role in the ECD. If you are ECD trained, you can also add. Raul, do you have something to say?
Yeah, as I want to say that in the time where you were disconnected, we asked them to rename themselves, so they're all good. But this is a good reminder. Thank you, Richard. So if you didn't already, then do name entity role name like we said in the beginning, and so we can recognize you.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So moving on to the session itself, I just want to ask, and it will be in the form of a poll. So you can answer the poll once it comes on. So education cycle, the topic in retrospect. So I remember I talked about the education cycle. I delivered a session on the education cycle during VICO. And I just want to know how many of you were present during that particular session. So Ralita, you can launch the.
Yes, this one. Yeah, no see. Can you all see the poll?
Yes. So did you attend my education session during the live cycle? If you did, I'll be really happy.
A lot of people are saying, of course. It's no. Now more people are saying I didn't attend VICO.
Okay. So how many? All right. So can you share the percentage?
Yes. Let me see. Everybody answered. We're still waiting for 20 people, but it's okay. Yeah. I'll partage. I have it in French, so I'll just keep. Okay, can you see it?
Yes. So apparently 59% of you didn't attend VICO, So I'm guessing you were not yet introduced to the ECB, and that's probably totally fine. But if you're already a part of the ECB and you didn't attend, then I hope that you take this summit seriously, because you're going to be discussing a lot of important issues and a lot of important stuff. Yeah, so if you were there during my education session, you'll probably be familiar with some of the things that I'll be talking about here. And I hope that you've been putting it to use ever since I mentioned them. So yeah, Raulito, you can close the poll. All right. So in retrospect, let's dive back a little bit and have a recap of what was said during the VICO. And I basically talked about, I made an analogy between being an ECB and organizing an education cycle, basically being a teacher and then being a sensei. So a sensei is basically a teacher. I'm not really that well versed in martial arts or karate, but according to my research, sensei is a teacher. And so I kind of made an analogy between a sensei and then the ECB chair or the ECB team in your role in delivering an education cycle to your entity and then to your MC as well. So I talked about a lot of things, and I remember I talked about something that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with what? Begins with a step, obviously. But in this particular point, begins with a step, but I need to go 3 extra steps, and then in order to have a wholesome experience and to create a wholesome education cycle that would benefit your entire entity and your MC as well. Yes, so I'm going to be reiterating the 4 steps that I discussed during the VICO. And then the first step is the survey stage in the education cycle, the survey stage. The second step is the design stage. The third step is the execution stage. And then the final step is the evaluation stage. Yeah. Just a minute. Okay. So with the survey stage, this stage basically helps you to identify gray areas where your entity is lacking, where your LCs need more help in, or where your entity needs more attention in, what you need to focus on as an ECB, and what capacity you need to build in your LCs and then with your MC as well. So how do you do this? How do you go about the survey stage? Basically, you need to collect data. So data is very important in your roles as ECBs. Make sure that wherever you go, whatever you're doing, you're collecting data, you're storing the data. And this data can be gotten from a lot of ways or forms. You can get your data through consultancy, you can get it through surveys, you can get it through audits, which I'm sure 95% of you already do. And you can also get it through case solving as well. So these are some of the ways that you can get your data. And I'd like to go on a limb and say that if you are not tracking certain things in your entity, then you need to start now, because all these things are going to help you to design the perfect education cycle for your entity. Yeah. And the second step is the design stage. So now that you've gathered your data through the survey stage, now you know the shortcomings, you know the gray areas that have been identified, you know what your LCs need or what your MC need. Now is the time for you to be able to brainstorm and then design something that would cater for the needs of your LCs and then your MC. So that is where the design stage comes in. So in this particular stage, you need to strive to ensure that you have good content. Content that will look attractive and draw the interest of your entity. So ideally, it should address the grievances that you have identified, or the weaknesses or the lapses that you've identified. That should be your main focus when you are designing your education cycle. So you also, in this design stage, also you need to consider using varieties. So it shouldn't be something monotonous, but it should be something that varies, such that the content becomes fresh whenever you deliver your education cycle. Because if you are delivering an education cycle one particular way, then you end up, boring your MC or you're boring your LCs, and then they decide not to participate in it because they keep hearing the same things over and over again. Nothing is being refreshed or nothing is being changed. Yeah. So your education materials should be well constructed. You need to consider incorporating videos and other visuals to break down your content, basically. So there are a lot of ways to create your education cycle. You need to explore. You need to do your research. Don't just sit down and like just be in your shell and then be in the safe space and then just organize something that's easy to do. Make sure that you go out of your comfort zone. Make sure you research a lot and make sure that you get the best possible ways to deliver your education cycle. So now that you've gone through the design stage and made your content very fresh, then we move on to the execution stage. So this is the point where you need to execute what you have designed. So your content that you have designed, it's time for you to put it out there for your LCs to consume and then for your MC to also consume. Now, this particular stage is very important because no matter what design or no matter what content you have created, even if it's the best content in the world, if you do not find a way to deliver it properly to suit the needs or to suit the realities of your entity, then it's going to be a problem. If, for instance, you have an Instagram page. I'm giving an example. You have an Instagram page and you have the best of designs whatsoever. You have the best of designs, but you realize that a lot of your entity members, your LC members and your MC, they are not really that much interested in Instagram. They barely come on Instagram to look at posts and etc. And you focus solely your education cycle on Instagram. You design the best content and everything, and you post them there. At the end of the day, no one is seeing it. So, you're basically just wasting your time. So you need to research and find out which delivery method, would be suitable for your entity, for your LC or for your MC. If the best or the most suitable delivery method is through conferences, then make sure that you capitalize on that. If it's through conducting academies, then make sure you capitalize on that. If it's through posting pictures on Instagram or making the post on Instagram or using a website, then you capitalize on that. So make sure that you do your research. Now it all boils down to the survey stage, like I mentioned. So in the survey stage, you get to find out what the needs are and the possible methods through which you can be able to deliver the best of education cycle. So now that you've delivered the education cycle, then we go down to the final stage. That is the evaluation stage. Now you've delivered the education cycle. It doesn't end there. You need to evaluate the education cycle that you have delivered. Whether it was good, what was the turnout? Did anyone have any particular issues? What can you do to better the next education cycle? Because trust me, the education cycle is not a one-time thing. It's called a cycle for a reason. So it's never ending. So once one cycle ends, the other cycle needs to begin through the evaluation stage, and then it moves on, crosses on to the survey stage, and moving on like that. So basically, you can get your feedback, or you can evaluate by getting feedback from whoever participated in the education cycle. If they were LC members, EB, if they were MC, you need to get feedback from them as well. Now you can do this through polls, quizzes, evaluation forms, etc. And that can help you to identify whether whatever content that you were delivering, they were able to understand whatever you were delivering and you achieved your goals or aims. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next session. That is EC for MC, and that's basically education cycles for MC. I just want to ask a simple question. That will lead me to my second poll. And this particular poll is strictly for MC ECB responsibles. So, or anyone who is in the MC. So if you are a member of an MC, you are not an ECB member or an ECB chair, but a member of an MC. Whether you're MCR, MCP, MCER, I want you to answer this question. Did you receive education during your MC transition? And the education I'm talking about is education about ECB. Did you receive any sort of education like that during your MC transition? If you did, select yes. If you didn't, select no.
We have
some responses.
Yeah, we have 22 responses so far. So I'm guessing this is the total number of MCECB responsibles here because we only had 30 subscribers. By the way, special shout out to everyone who's an MC here. Hello, welcome. Good to see you here.
Yes.
Cool.
I'd also like to personally welcome you. Can you share that? Okay, yeah. I'd also like to personally welcome all the MC reps here. Thank you for joining, and I hope that you benefit from this session as much as the ECB teams also benefit from this session. So it's 50-50. And how many people voted?
It's 24, so it's 12-12.
12. Okay. All right. I'm kind of happy that sad at the same time. I'm happy that at least 50 people, 50% of the MCs here, represented here, had some sort of education about the ECB. But I'm also sad at the same time because 50% of the MCs represented here did not have any sort of education about the ECB. And that is one of the main problems that we face as a network, because you realize that the MC is not that much aligned with ECB, and they don't really understand how the ECB operates, and that starts, or that begins the miscommunication or the inability to form synergy with the ECB. So it's very important that when you're having MC transition, so MC in your next, when you're having transition with your successors, please make sure, for those of you especially who didn't have any education about the ECB, please make sure that you include a special session about the ECB and its essence in your transition, so that they will be able to be aligned with the ECB as soon as they start with their term. Yeah. So I would like to move on. Yeah, so we've already answered this question. Okay, so there's another question I want you to answer. So for the members of MC who are already here, I want you to answer this question, and it's going to be on mentee.com. So you can use your phones to go to mentee.com and then use the code written below. So I just want to answer this question in one word. Describe what you think the role of the ECB is. So just in your own words. Just one word to describe what the ECB is. And for those of you who are ECB chairs, ECB team leaders, ECB team members, please take note of the answers that the MC is giving right now. It basically gives you an idea of what your MCs think about you, or what the MC think your work is. So if there's some sort of miscommunication after this particular session or after the summit, you know that your work is, you have your work cut out for you, and you need to identify, you need to make sure that this miscommunication, misconstruing has been taken care of, basically. So Raulito, can you please share the answers?
Yes. Just in the meantime, let me check if everybody knows how to use mentee.com. You're all good? Because I didn't get any answers yet. I'm gonna share my screen. Wait. So what you basically do is that you go either on your phone, or I think even in your laptop it works. So yeah, it works. So you go on mentee.com and you bring this code. Can you spell it out for me, Richard?
The code is 688 712.
Yep.
And another one is here.
Awesome. And then you find this question, use one word to describe the role of the ECB. For example, I don't want to influence you, so I'll just leave these words here. But give me, if you don't know how to use Mentee, just write the word in the chat, and I will write it here. Okay. Yeah. So Richard, keep checking in the chat, and if you find
so if you can't access Mentimeter right now, just write your answer in the chat box, and I'll just mention it to Raul. He would input it for you.
Let's see if we got some questions. If you're finding trouble and you want help, you can. We start getting an answer. But if you need help, just raise your hand, and we can give you the word, and we can answer, assist you. No words in the chat. Do we have a word? No, done. Good job, Estelle.
Okay, so I'm seeing education, I'm seeing enthusiasm, I'm seeing bridge, but something interesting I'm seeing is unavoidable. I kind of like it, but I don't like it at the same time. Establisher of order. That sounds like, Game
of Thrones.
A god or something. Yeah.
Important.
Valuable, supportive. Okay, I'm seeing positive words here. I was kind of hoping to see misconceptions actually, but I'm seeing a lot of things that are actually true, and that speaks volume of the ECB network and then the work that you have put in into educating your MC about your responsibilities and about the essence of your role. So if you're an ECB chair, you're ECB team member or team leader over here, you should be really proud of yourself for this. And yeah, there's just one particular word I want to possibly talk about over here, and that's unavoidable. I don't know, in a way, I feel like it's a good thing and a bad thing. Um, who was the one who typed unavoidable? If you wouldn't mind, can you explain to us why you used that word?
Okay, yeah, so that was me. Like the reason I put unavoidable is because ECP is the team that takes care of all the legalities of an entity at a national level, right? So the importance of the role of ECB for ISEC at national level is unavoidable, is what I meant. I hope that
Okay.
explains.
Okay, yeah, that's extensive. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, but my mind sometimes wanders off a lot of places, and it's always thinking about the worst possible scenarios of things. So when I saw unavoidable, I probably was thinking, oh my God, this person thinks ECBs are leeches, and we torment them and all those things. So the fact that you don't think about it that way is actually good, and I'm happy about that. Yeah. So I think we can move on. Or at least you can take a screenshot of the implementing
Yes.
it.
Can someone else take a screenshot for me? Because if I take the screenshot, it's gonna appear with the Zoom controls. So anybody can take a screenshot and send it to me. We already have it. I got my perfect backstage logistics support team to back me up. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So you can see my screen now, right?
Yep, we can.
Okay. So I'm really glad with the answers or the words that I saw over there. So I don't want to stress on it anymore. I just want to move on with this. Okay. So based on everything that we've talked about with respect to education cycle for MC, especially established by the ECB, there are certain things that I want the ECBs to pay attention to, and I also want the MCs to also pay attention to this. And I hope that after this, you kind of form the synergies, and then it will be easier for you to be developing or having these kind of education cycles with the MC, so that they become more abreast with the ECB issues, and so that they can give you better support for you to be able to ensure compliance within your entity as well. Yeah. So these are recommended topics I want you as ECB teams to have some sort of education cycles with the MC. And that's one, the ECB role and relevance. It's very important for you to establish the essence of the ECB in the MC right from the get-go, especially from transition. This should have been, reiterated and pounded into, sorry for the words, but pounded into the heads of the MC, such that, whatever they're doing, they have compliance in mind, and then, they have the good synergy that we expect them to have with the ECB as well. Yeah, the other thing I would like to talk about is synergy. I've already mentioned that. Ideally, we expect MC to have a good synergy with ECB, and that can only happen if the MC is willing to have education cycle with the ECB, where the ECB would explain the basic synergy connections that they are supposed to be having together. And then based on that, you can move on forward and then make sure that you implement everything that has been said. If you have any concerns, you can also address them and then make sure that you have just the best synergy. The next thing is compliance and customer centricity, the role of the MC. So basically your role as MC while managing your LCs, to make sure that you are also helping the ECBs to ensure that LCs are being compliant with respect to all the operations that they are performing. So it shouldn't just be the ECB's role to be ensuring compliance and customer centricity. The MC should also play a very important role as a support to the ECBs when they are, going through their roles or making sure that compliance and customer centricity is top notch within your entity. It shouldn't, the ECB shouldn't be alienated and seen as, yes, the ECB is an independent body. At the end of the day, you need to work together to make sure that you achieve your goals or your plans. And also, other topics that I recommend is the product minimums, because very important. At the end of the day, when it's time to audit, ECB's audit product minimum. So once this has been explained well to MC, then they can downscale that as well to the LC level, and it won't be such a difficult task for ECBs to also downscale that in the LC level as well. So we just need the support from MC in downscaling these things. You also need to talk about ER principles, talk about EY, you can talk about LMC. These are all important topics that you need to be discussing with MC. So as ECB teams, whenever you decide to create an education cycle specifically for MC, these are some of the topics you can focus on, because at the end of the day, they need to understand all these things and why you are doing what you're doing, so that they can provide you the support and downscale everything as well to the LC level. Then, so the strategies you can consider in delivering these topics that I've mentioned over here are: one, I've already mentioned transition. And it's very important that right from transition, MCs are given education cycles or are given education about the essence and the rules of the ECB. So that right from there, they can create the synergy that they need to work together and provide the support. And then two, routine reviews. So I am aware that most MCs, I don't know if all LCs do this, but most MCs have monthly reviews, quarterly reviews. It would be such a joy if you can invite ECBs to some of these reviews, because they also have monthly reviews as well, and then they have feedback that they can give you as MC, so that you can improve upon the things that you've been doing for the next month. You want to do for the next month or the next quarter. So please consider this in your MC routine reviews and in your planning as well. And then last thing I would like to talk about is webinars. The reason why I put that down there is, I know MC, always mostly busy and etc. And it might be difficult, trying to find an appropriate time to create webinars and etc. So if transitions and then the routine reviews do not work, then on the extreme end, you can consider webinars and try to find an appropriate time for both the ECB and then the MC to have such education touch points or education cycles as well. Yeah. So now that we are done talking about education cycles for MC, I would like to move on to education cycles for LC. Now, for the education cycles for LC, basically we are all aware that ECB provides education cycles, and they are usually targeted towards the LCs. So I'm not going to bore you with a lot of background about how to do that, but I'm going to recommend certain topics that you discuss or you include in your education cycles for LCs as well. So some of the topics that you can consider, again, is the ECB role and relevance, because if your LCs are not aware of your role and relevance, then it doesn't create the possibility for you to do your things, and it becomes also very difficult for you to especially audit and to do other things that you want to do. The other thing I'd like to mention is auditing. It's very important for you to onboard everyone in the various entities about auditing, because they are going to be the ones who will be submitting your documents, will be the ones who will be answering all your questions and going through the interviews and all those things. And they will be the ones responsible for actually delivering the standards or delivering the quality experiences to the APs or to whoever who comes into contact with the LCs. So please make sure that you onboard them with respect to audits as well. You onboard them with respect to case solving too, because it's not the sole responsibility of the ECB to be solving cases, but also the responsibility of LCs to also make sure that they're able to solve the cases right from the LC to LC level as well. Yeah. And then with harassment prevention, ways to prevent harassment, and then, how to create a conducive, a safe space for EPs and even for ISEC members as well in their local communities and local committees, as well as the product minimums and then standards implementation. So these are some of the recommendations for the topics that you can deliver in your education cycles for LC. I know that there are a lot of them, but I think that these are very solid ones And even based on these ones, you can have subtopics or sub-education cycles under them as well. So you can consider this. So these are some of the strategies. You can decide to have an academy, an ECB Academy for your local committees or for your entity. You can decide to lobby for session spots in commission calls. I know that there are lots of commission calls that goes on for GB, for GT, and etc. You can lobby for session spots in it. So if it's a GB commission call, then you know that going into that call, you're going to be talking about GB stuff. So make sure you know your GB stuff and then you tell them about the things that they need to be wary of or need to understand. Yes. And then the third one is lobby for session spots in local and national conferences. Now, this works a lot because usually in the local and national conferences, you have a huge number of delegates or you have a huge number of audience. Now, this is the perfect time, perfect opportunity for you to deliver an education cycle. And I can't stress on how important it is and how beneficial it would be for you as ECB to deliver an education cycle or to deliver a session in a local conference or a national conference. So these are some of the strategies that you can take into consideration. The last one, obviously, is the webinars that you can create. So mostly to get a larger audience for your education cycles, consider the first 3. And then you can also consider the final one as well. That's if you realize that upon your surveys, your team or your LC members or your entity members would be willing to join the webinars. If they will be willing, then you can go ahead to create the webinars. All right, so the next thing I'd like to talk about is tracking your education cycle. Now, with tracking your education cycle, once you deliver the education cycle, not even once you've delivered, right from the onset, creating the surveys and everything, you need to make sure that you have a tracker that will be tracking all your education cycles. And this is a model tracking device that we tracker that we created, and it's very simple to use. It helps you to track all your education cycles that you are planning, education cycles that are ongoing, education cycles that have been completed, as well as the satisfaction survey or evaluation results and all these things. So you can see the target audience over there. We have a column for topic, the delivery method, who's responsible for delivering the cycle, the objectives, the blocks, outputs, the nature of the sessions, the evaluation results, the status, whether it's completed or is in progress, and then the timeline for the delivery of the education cycle as well. So this can help you to consolidate every education cycle that you have. Like I said, education cycle is not hard once. You need to have it multiple times because it's a never-ending cycle. Learning is a never-ending cycle. You also need to build up on what you have learned and then improve upon yourself. So it's very important for you to be creating this and to be tracking all the education cycles. Now, this is a template that we'll share with you. So once you have access to the output, you can just use the link, ice.ec, ECB education cycle templates. Right, so you can make that available for them in the chat box. And then you can just make a copy and then you can adapt it to the realities of your entity. If there's anything that you would like to add, you can feel free to add that as well. Yeah. All right. So I guess I've talked a lot and it's GCP time. I have someone very important here with me. I say important because we initially strayed on this GCP, but as he decided to submit it anyways. Looking into the GCP, I realized that this particular entity has, actually took into consideration what we talked about in VICO with respect to the steps, and they have executed it so well, such that their entity is flourishing and they have amazing results to show for it. So who can guess the entity I'm talking about in the chat box? All right, I can just open my chat and see. Just guess what entity that is.
Hi guys, are you listening to me?
Yes.
Okay, Brazil. Are you sure it's Brazil? I'm not so sure. Okay, all right. So I guess the cat's out of the bag, and the GCP will be coming from Brazil. I hope you're excited. The person, I'd like to introduce the person. He's called Gustavo, and throughout these past couple of days. I've had interactions with him, and I'm really impressed with the way things are going in the entity with respect to the education cycle. And I really cannot wait for him to explain what has been going on and what they've been doing as an entity. So, Gustavo, if you're here, you can take that.
I've just made a mess right now, but sorry. So hi guys, how are you doing? I'm very glad to be here. And so, hi, I'm Googa. I'm AC for Operations Shell from ECB Brazil. And a fun fact about me is I love listening to the Voice Kids covers. I'm very glad to be here because it's very important to have this place to talk about educational cycles. And I'm very happy to be here with a lot of members of ECB Brazil. So I'm glad, guys, you are here. Can pass, please. So today I want to talk to you about education strategies we use in ECB Brazil. And I have some GCPs we used to do. And as Richard said, things that could be useful to you. And I just want to say to you that it's not exactly the same context to you, but you can probably change something and use some of our strategies to you. And I will be really glad to answer questions if you want before. So you can pass, please. The context of ECB Brazil is we have 42 LCs today, and we have 2,296 members at ESEC in Brazil. And our ECB team has 22 members. So we have a huge entity, and we have a huge ECB, and that make us like very big to make the educational cycles we want, because we have a lot of people to make it happen. And you can pass, please. So how we usually planning our cycles. We usually use 3 points to give us Q&A data. So what our LCs don't know and what they need to know, and how we keep this kind of data. So we have this customer service center, and there our LCs can just send tickets, support tickets to us, and we know that they want that we review a audit or a broken approval, so we can review that, and that way we know that they don't agree with exactly point of our processes, and we know that we need to explain that to them. We use Telegram support, so that give us a lot of data of doubts they have. And we have another big point to planning our cycles, that is NMS. It's a monthly NPS that we use to have feedbacks of things that our LCs want to know, and how they want to know that, how they want that we plan our cycles to give this kind of content to them. And these 3 points are the biggest points to have Q&A data to us. And you may screenshot that. You can pass, please. So, okay, we have data, and we know what we need to make our cycles. Oh, sorry, I want to just, you want to know that, but this is the Google Sheets we use to analyze the answers of NPS monthly. So that way we can planning our cycles using data in a more efficient way. So it's very, very, very nice to have something like that. If someone may be interested in it, you can just talk to me and we will make it happen. Yeah, sorry. Say this RLCs in Portuguese. And you can move on, please. So about the, you can pass, please. Thank you. About the customer service center, we use Podio Forms to have this kind of contact, and RLCs make this Podio Forms to us to say what they need to us to do. You can pass, please. This is the way the Podio Forms happens to us. That's where the askings went. So it's very easy to use that to answer them and then to see the answers you give them. You can pass, please. So guys, we already have data about what they need to know and what we do to have the engagement we need to them to be in our cycles, how we keep them closer to be with us when we need to have a big cycle. So we have some actions during the month, and they are like, we have individual follow-ups, we have open space with networking, and we usually use that in a strategic way before and after the NMS, because we can track what they think about it, what they think about the engagement we are getting. So we are always looking for how they are thinking about we are doing. And all this time we are using Instagram posts, we are using materials like knowledge pills, and we post it on our hubby. So we say that Brazilians, like our network, thinking that support is like communication, and if you have a lot of communication with them, they think you are giving a lot of support to them. So we are in everywhere. We are in Instagram, we are on email, we are on a hubby, we are on Podio, we are on Instagram, and we are everywhere. So they have a lot of communication with us. So they are engaged with us a lot, and they talk to us, and they just, if they have a problem, they can talk to us before it became a huge problem. So it's a really nice thing we use to make engagement for our big cycles. You can pass, please. So, okay. I said to you that we have data to make things happen. We have these actions to make engagement during the month. So isn't just like that. We just make these micro actions and things happen. We planned it annually. So how we will make it happen during all the year, and how we will make it worth. So in the first quarter, we just have the focus on ECB's importance, and I will explain how we did it better. The second quarter, we focused on LC's internal audit culture. So we had the educational cycle, our visits. It was really, really huge. I don't know if you remember from Vico, but we had more than 100 visits, and it is a lot. So it was amazing. And then in the third quarter, we are having right now ECB for Chalbi, because we received a lot of points of questions and doubts of our new shells, and that make us to use this point of educational cycle we had in the third quarter to make them be better at this. So in the fourth quarter, we planning to do something about transition, because we don't want that they lose this kind of knowledge, because it's very important to keep this. You can pass, please. So I said that we focused on importance of ECB. So what it means? It means that all ISACer in Brazil must know to answer these 4 questions. What is ECB? What is the importance of ECB? How does ECB connect with LC deliverables? And what is membership criteria? So we focused on everyone need to know to answer that, and it means we need to know how to answer that, and it's very hard to know to answer it. So my big tip to you is you must know how to answer this, and you must teach them how to answer that, because they will want to work with you because you make their lives easier, and it make they don't have so much problems in the future in their XP and delivery better XPs to their APs. So you must explain that to them, and it will be more easier to you and to them. You can pass. You can pass, please. So I'm talking to you about actions we did and how we did it, but was it worth? So in January, we had the average of 14 docs delivery correctly for a month. And now in September, the month has, it didn't end it, and we already had 70% docs delivered correctly. And in January, we had 0 LCs achieving the membership criteria minimum, and now we have 17 and sorry 16, and it didn't end it, as I said, so it can change and it can grow, and it's very nice to see this average growing. So I guess that's it, guys. That's what I want to talk to you. If you need something, just send me a message and we will talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this awesome GCP. I enjoyed every bit of it, and I think that you enjoyed it as well as the mental from it. And so if you need any help with creating your education cycle, obviously ECB Brazil is they're experts in that. So if you need any sort of assistance, you can always reach out to them for assistance. You can also reach out to the ICB if you have any questions as well. I'll be more than happy to help. We also have the template for you to be using to track all your education cycles. So make sure that you make a copy of it and you utilize it. Please make sure you use it, because if you don't track, then how are you going to make progress? It's very important. All right. So speaking of education cycles, I have something for you. There is an ongoing global ECB Academy. How many of you are aware of this? If you're aware, say I, or type I in the chat box. If you're not aware, say name. Like my best friend, names. Hi, bestie.
Everybody became I like no letter. I was the first one to read it. He means I, people. AYE. Like I, Captain.
Yeah, so yeah, don't worry. We'll take the I's and then the I's. So don't worry. they're all fine. But yes, I'm glad you're all aware of this. Yeah, that was funny. I'm glad you're all aware about the ECB Academy. Unfortunately, you're aware, but you're not participating. So what's going on? What's going on? Does anyone care to explain? So far, the ECB is actually doing well. I want to see a lot of team members participating as well. So please, let's make sure to participate. Your ECB chairs will be tracking. We'll be sending the scores to them as well. So please make sure that you are participating in the ECB Academy. The booklets to the Academy, that's the link to the booklets. We'll have it changed, but the booklet is ISEC /ECB. Rolito, can you send that in the chat box? well.
Yes, on it. Just a sec.
Yeah.
Let me read it.
The updated one, not this one.
Yeah.
Yes. So once you have access to the booklet, please go through it thoroughly and make sure that you start the academy. We currently have 4 to 5 sections over there. They're not that difficult to read. They're very easy on the eyes, and the quizzes are not that tough. So they are not tough at all, actually. So I hope you have fun learning and scoring high marks. So you need 20%, 20 out of 20 and 100% of everything. I wish you all the best. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. And I'll be more than happy to answer your questions about the ECB Academy as well. Yes. So get your ECB Academy completed. The deadline for the Academy is 30th of September 2021. Jane 3:59, that's 11:59 p.m. GMT, that's you. So pretty much you're already in time. And I hope that, I see a lot of responses tonight after the summit as well. Yeah. And another assignment I would also like to give you, once we've already talked about having an education cycle and then tracking your education cycle, I hope that you take that lesson and then you implement it in your entities. But as a sign of whether you actually understood what we talked about here, I would like for each and every ECB team, right after the summit, to develop a tracker and to develop an education cycle by filling the tracker with the education cycle that you plan on embarking or that you plan on implementing. And once you have filled that or made the necessary changes, please make sure to submit it to me or your ECB or ICB coach, your BD coach. Submit it to them and we review it and then we will give you feedback on it as well so that you can optimize your education cycles. Yeah. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. I know it's been a long session, but I hope you learned and you get to use it in every aspect of it. And for those who are MC responsibles or MC reps over here, I hope you also learned a lot. And I hope that this is the beginning of a very good and budding relationship between you and your ECB teams as well. And I hope that you also give them the needed or required support when they are delivering the education cycles, because without your support, and it's going to be very difficult for the ECBs to implement it. So please make sure that there is that sort of synergy and cordial relationship between you, the MC, and then the ECB as well. And if there are any conflicts, make sure that you use good conflict resolution methods to make sure that you sort out your differences amicably as well. But at the end of the day, we all seek for the best for our entities. The ECB is not there to shut you down, but they're there to make sure that you're performing at your optimum best. So make sure that you complement them and you support them. So thank you very much. Ralito, you can take over.
Thank you, Richard. I want to see a lot of hearts, just like Luke. You can go to reactions. I don't know if you know how to do reactions now. If you don't, you can go to reactions in the bar that you have, and you can click on heart like this, or do like this, like Luke is doing. I love this heart.
Oh, I would like to give special recognition to certain people. The first person is Googa, Gustavo, for being an amazing sport. I love your GCP, and he was so cooperative during the past few days. It was on short notice, actually, but he was able to come up with something, and it was actually really good and very impressive. So thank you, Gustavo, and thank you, Ricardo, who is the ECB chair for Isaac in Brazil, for setting this up and for managing everything as well. I also like to give a shout out to Neyruz, my bestie. Hi, bestie. I hope you're here, and I hope you're here on day 3 because Neyruz will also be here on day 3 and will be facilitating a very interesting session. So please make sure that you're here on day 2 and day 3 as well to see my best friend perform as well. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that if they're here today, they'll be here in the next days, because the next days are getting better. Like it's going in an upward slope. So make sure that you attend all the summits. Thank you very